Imagine you're the most powerful person on Earth. This was King Philip II of Spain in 1588, a king with a global empire, unlimited wealth, and an unshakable belief that he couldn't fail. And when he launched the Spanish Armada, he wasn't just sending ships to war. He was trying to prove that his vision of control over the world was absolute. But what followed wasn't a legendary victory. It was one of the biggest failures in history, and not for the reasons most people think. Because the Armada wasn't truly defeated by storms, or even by the English Navy alone. It was destroyed by something much deeper, something invisible, a psychological trap built on overconfidence, rigid thinking, and a dangerous illusion that perfect planning could replace reality. Philip ruled from a desk, not the battlefield, obsessing over every detail, believing that if he could just plan enough, organize enough, and control every variable, he could dominate the unpredictable chaos of the ocean. This is what we call the illusion of control, and it led him to design a system that looked perfect on paper, but was completely disconnected from how the real world works. While Spain was building massive, heavy ships designed for close combat, the English were doing something different. They were building faster, more flexible ships that could attack from a distance and adapt in real time. But Philip couldn't see the threat, because he was trapped in status quo bias, convinced that what had always worked for Spain would continue to work forever. And this is where things get even more interesting, because the real failure of the Armada wasn't just strategic, it was hidden inside something as simple as barrels. Yes, barrels, used to store food and water. Because of time pressure and his obsession with sticking to a rigid timeline, Philip rushed production, forcing builders to use fresh, unseasoned wood instead of properly dried material. And at first, everything looked fine. The fleet was ready, the supplies were packed, the plan was in motion.
Everything will go exactly as expected, while ignoring real-world constraints. And the mistakes didn't stop there. Philip chose an unqualified commander, Duke of Medina Sidonia, not because he was the best, but because he would follow orders without question, prioritizing loyalty over competence. And when the situation started collapsing, the commander was trapped, unable to adapt, and unwilling to retreat, because too much had already been invested. Money, time, reputation, all pushing him forward into failure. This is the sunk cost fallacy, continuing a bad decision simply because you've already committed to it. Then came the breaking point, when English fireships were sent into the Spanish fleet at night, creating chaos and panic, breaking their formation and shattering the belief that they were invincible. And once that psychological edge was gone, everything fell apart. The fleet fled north, trying to return home by sailing around Scotland and Ireland. But this is where the earlier mistake with the barrels turned into a full disaster. Thousands of sailors died, not from combat, but from starvation, dehydration, and disease caused by spoiled supplies, meaning the very system designed to support them became the reason for their destruction. And this is why the story of the Armada still matters today, because it's not just about history, it's about how we think, how we plan, and how we fail. We all try to build perfect plans, perfect systems, and perfect strategies to eliminate uncertainty. But the truth is, the more rigid your plan becomes, the more fragile it is in the face of reality. The Spanish Armada didn't fail because it was weak. It failed because it couldn't adapt, because it was too certain, too structured, and too blinded by its own confidence, while its opponent embraced flexibility, speed, and constant adjustment. And that leads to the most important lesson of all. The most powerful advantage you can have isn't a perfect plan. It's the ability to change your mind when reality proves you wrong. Because if you find yourself holding on to a failing strategy just because you've already invested time into it, then you are sailing on that same Armada. And if you're ignoring small flaws in your foundation while chasing a big goal, then you are building your own version of those rotting barrels. And sooner or later, it will catch up with you. Because in the end, the Armada wasn't destroyed by its enemies. It was destroyed by its own mindset.